Hello, dear Scorpios. Let's break down the upcoming month of June. A month that changes the rules of the game drastically. This is connected to the fact that now, starting from June 7th, Uranus, the planet that symbolizes a bucking horse, the planet that represents a rebellious, independent, and willful spirit, is leaving the sign of Taurus and moving into the sign of Gemini. Well, it does seem to have some relevance to Scorpios. You won't believe it, this is the most important, the main thing, and absolutely fundamental. Why does this change the rules of life and the rules of the game altogether? So, let me first show you a picture. So, there's Scorpio. Usually, how do we build relationships with the opposite sex? With my person, the one opposite me, that's what our opposite sign is responsible for. And for Scorpios, that's Taurus. So Scorpio is myself. And who is opposite me? Opposite you is the sign Taurus. And usually, through the sign opposite, we develop the whole style of how we form our personal life, how we build partnerships and relationships, how we interact with others, with those who are across from us. And for the past 7 years, starting from 2018 up to this year, 2025, the planet Uranus has been moving through the sign of your other half. A planet that kicks back, a planet that is willful, a planet that, well, you just can't catch it. Everything related to your personal life and relationships, for example, over the past 7 years might have felt, well, let's remember that old Russian fairy tale where there's a little hut on chicken legs and there's an old woman trying to shove our Ivanushka into the oven. Hear you, sorry for comparing Scorpios to this little hut, and the old woman who stirred everything up, conjured things, lured the brave young man or Ivanushka. And, well, actually, that's a bit of a Scorpio-like example after all. All this, the horror you find in children's fairy tales, that's actually often something Scorpio-like. If Kashii the Deathless is probably more of a Capricorn, then everything that lived in the hut on chicken legs is actually more of a Scorpio theme. And what's the point? Why am I telling you all this? It's about the fact that for the last 8 years, Uranus in Taurus has been like this Ivanushka. In relationships, you constantly meet people who, in one way or another, just don't fit in the oven. You can't prepare them this way, and you can't prepare them that way either. And in a sense, personal life is often built on the principle of you're mine, I'm yours. There's a certain sense of ownership. And that's exactly the theme of Scorpio. If a Scorpio loves, it's to the end, to the very last. I am your property, you are my property. So there's this element of merging. And Uranus, for the past 7 years, has been quite the troublemaker. You want to absorb this person and this relationship, you want to merge, you want to dissolve into the relationship. But Uranus acts up one way, then another, and you just can't fit him into the mold, no matter how you try. And over the past 7 years, you might have even developed the attitude of, forget it, who needs this personal life anyway? There's nothing normal there. No real merging or absorption happening in your personal life. Uranus is constantly stirring things up. And, well, you could have had a perfectly normal personal life over the last 8 years, but you constantly feel that there's some kind of emotional distance between you and your partner, as if there's always a bit of coldness, some detachment, a lack of that complete merging and absorption with each other. And for Scorpios, that's an absolute must-have. It's absolutely essential. It's really one of the main things they seek in intimacy. You are mine, I am yours. Or, the other way around. And so, for the last 8 years, Uranus has basically been like, found an object of love, fell in love, you want that absorption, you reach out, and it's like an eel that gives you a shock, so to speak. So it's this feeling of, how do I consume this? How do I absorb it? How do I experience it inside myself? Well, that's the metaphor for Uranus, which has been directly influencing all your relationships for, let's say, the past 8 years. Now, Uranus is leaving the sign of Taurus, and in a way, it's no longer looming over you, no longer distorting your perspective. And another main feature is that Uranus is often associated with technology. Uranus is connected to all this digitalization. And since it's opposing Scorpios, it basically means that Scorpios are just fed up with all this digitalization, with these new technologies. I remember getting a lot of comments about 5 or 10 years ago, right when Uranus was moving into Taurus with all the hype like, let's move to the countryside, forget these technologies. Often, it was exactly Scorpios who would make comments like that. Like, all of this is unnatural, this whole digital revolution, the digital ruble, all these chips. That's exactly the kind of thing Scorpios would reject, all this technological and digital stuff. I guess right now, I'm probably generalizing too much about everyone. There are Scorpios who are into it, there are Scorpios who use all of this. But in general, the main point I wanted to get across is that for the last 8 years, while Uranus was in Taurus, in opposition to Scorpio, Scorpios might have actually felt cautious and sensed a disconnect with this digital world. And now everything is starting to turn upside down. Uranus is moving into Gemini and begins to make a favorable aspect. In astrology, this is called a trine, activating their planet Pluto, which has also just moved into the sign of Aquarius. And these two planets, Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, are working together, and for Scorpios, who are ruled by Pluto and now receive support from Uranus, there will be, in the coming years, a sense that they understand the spirit of this digital age. They start living with new technologies, they begin to see them as help, as support, rather than something that's just a hassle, something they don't like, something that annoys them. All these artificial intelligences, all these gadgets, all these technologies, they're from the devil, just get rid of them all, chop off their hands and feet, there's no need to use gadgets. Well, or something along those lines. Of course, I'm being very categorical here, but I do have some followers on my channel who actually feel this way. And in the coming years, the situation is really unfolding on a global scale, so I'm the best friend of technology. How is it that people have changed their tune in just a year or two? This is connected to the fact that Pluto has now moved into the sign of Aquarius. Pluto is the main ruler of Scorpios, and as it moves into the sign of Aquarius, it basically means that Scorpios suddenly find themselves at the forefront of this Aquarian digital age, and within a year or two. And this year, Uranus is also moving into the sign of Gemini. Scorpios are actually stopping any kind of conflict or tension with this digital reality. They're integrating into it, using it, and making really, really good money from it. If you can somehow move into electronic products, education, teaching, or using all these new technologies, this is one of the main tools for income in the coming years. Basically, for the next 3 or 4 years, this is a really important, cool breakthrough direction for you. And most importantly, all your planets are starting to get along with these technologies. Unlike the last 8 years when things were on the verge of glitches, sometimes things worked out, sometimes they didn't, sometimes it was awkward, sometimes it was rough. And at some point, of course, that could have been nerve-wracking. That's the general understanding of the context Scorpios are living in, and how, on a global scale, there's a paradigm shift happening in their lives. And why did I start talking about this now, in July? Because right now, in July, Uranus is leaving the sign of Taurus, moving into Gemini, and starts to aspect your Pluto in Aquarius. Long live the age of Aquarius. And Pluto, Scorpios are on top of the world right now. They're the first wave implementing, investing, and developing in all these digital assets. And getting into things like Bitcoin, digital investments, digital trends, startups, or some kind of education, this will become one of the most fascinating and interesting areas of life for Scorpios in the next year, 2 or 3. And probably the single most important thing to consider is that, well, Scorpio is actually quite inert in the profound sense that they tend to get attached to various things and sometimes stay in one particular place for a very long period of time. Break time equals 0.5s/. But now it's not just the era of rapid change. Every year, Scorpios will simply feel like they're changing. Every month, they come up with and change their goals, career projects, and even their environment. Aquarians, in particular, start to have a lot of travel in their lives. Basically, life starts turning into a kind of constant, sparkling movement and relocation. And this has already started happening roughly over the past year, when Pluto moved into the sign of Aquarius in 2024. And this year, starting from this July, it's just beginning to pick up incredible speed. Within this 25th year, the main period when life just stops, turns into some kind of road rendezvous where life is full of trips, adventures, learning, interesting new people, and all the inertia of Scorpios is left behind. They are simply the very first among the first. This will start happening to the fullest in August, when Mars moves into the sign of Gemini. Mars moves into the sign of Libra. That will be somewhere after the 8th of August. And from there, life will just take off so much that they'll be absolutely blown away. Honestly, for Scorpios, it's like sitting in the back seat of a convertible. It's important to just relax and accept that their life is now going to be constantly at high speed, and they'll just be in shock like, damn, where's this all going? What is even happening? And there will be a ton of changes every month in August, in September, in October. It's going to be, wow, what's happening there? And July is basically the runway leading up to some pretty big and interesting events. At the same time, July is the main month for learning, when you're ready to study, dive in, and explore everything connected to the intellectual technologies of the current age of Aquarius. Those are my thoughts. That turned out to be quite a long introduction. I think it's the longest introduction out of all the zodiac signs. Anyway, this video is, let's be honest, dedicated to July. And here we're going to break down 5 key events. The full moon, the new moon, and now we're going to go through them. Each event I mentioned could hit you hard, or it might not affect you at all. It could just pass by unnoticed, like a piece of cardboard flying over Paris. This has to do with the fact that you have your own birth date. Below the video, you'll find a link based on your birth date. There, you enter your information and see a list of the main events of the month, and for your specific birth date, there will be plus signs marked from 0 to 5. The events themselves have the same names for everyone. But the plus signs are different for each person. And the plus signs actually show how important each event is for your particular birth date. If you really need your own personal forecasts, individual predictions based on your specific chart, we've made them available in a private Telegram channel. There are all sorts of services available there, and they're described here. What do we offer there? The main thing is early access to videos. For example, this video for Scorpios is already available in the private channel as of June 15th. There's also a great opportunity there to simply analyze your natal chart. There are sessions with astrologers who help you figure out how to analyze each of your planets. All throughout June, we're exploring the topic of Jupiter. That is, the theme of luck, fortune, and opportunities that Jupiter can bring into your life. We go over all of this using your own charts. There's also stuff on numerology and love cards there. Basically, there are a lot of extra services that I finally managed to bring to life. And now we're looking at all of that there. Those are my thoughts. Enough with the introductions. Let's break down the 5 key events. Otherwise, I'll never get to them. The first event is actually on the 1st and 5th of July. Here we have the black moon, which is currently in your sign, Scorpio. The black moon symbolizes intrigue, like a Brazilian soap opera where, you don't know who to trust, who not to trust, where there are schemes, where there are doubts, where The black moon in Scorpio is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. There might be someone close to you, a person who seems to have earned your emotional trust, but at the same time, you have this feeling of doubt. And there are little nuances. And the black moon can cast doubts on someone close to you, making you wonder whether this person is really on your side or not. Especially since it's in Scorpio. There's this possessive, jealous attitude. And here are the main recommendations. First, you might start labeling others, assigning them unfair or inappropriate labels, getting hung up on the idea that people are up to something when they're actually innocent. But the opposite can also happen. In situations where people really are up to something, you might be overly naive and trusting. Telling one from the other can actually be really difficult under the black moon. That's why one of the main things to remember is that when you start feeling distrustful, sometimes it's easier to just be direct, ask straight out, and get to the bottom of things right away, rather than overthinking, making things up, and then projecting all your demons onto someone. Sometimes just talking for 5 minutes can clear things up immediately. This is a way to deal with the black moon. Since the black moon is currently passing through your sign, there's a high chance that you'll be the one starting these black moon stories. You'll be the main chef, the one adding the spice to the shared space. In other words, you might be the one to spark a certain intrigue, or you might be the source of wanting to play some kind of questionable emotional game. I was about to say bullfinch party. Wait, what do I have here? The point is, the black moon in Scorpio symbolizes frivolity when it comes to Scorpio-related matters. Scorpio-related matters are sex, adrenaline, sensuality, and loyalty. And there can be a very frivolous, free-spirited attitude toward these topics. What if we allow some strange, unusual, adventurous form of intimacy, sex, relationships, or even let some questionable characters or dubious projects into our circle of loyal people, just frivolously let them in? That's why there's this fine line of frivolity toward things that are actually fundamentally important to you. Scorpios have a very strong intuition. So, for example, if you see, hear, or talk to someone and say their smell hits you right away. So when you start working with a new person, you shake their hand and your body just instinctively shows you, no, this isn't for me, don't do it, don't cooperate, don't get involved. This often comes out instinctively, intuitively, and sometimes even through smells. The black moon in Scorpio says, who cares? I mean, on paper, everything looks fine. Who cares about my gut feeling? Let's just do business together. Basically, the money side is all right. And this black moon can sometimes make you too careless about certain matters that instinctively you really should be taking very seriously. And you're just in a whatever mood. And that's how this black moon can sometimes let you down. So don't ignore your intuition. That's my advice. Here, it's marked for the dates of July 1st and 5th. But in reality, the black moon will play out in the most vivid and spectacular way in October and November. It'll be like a Brazilian soap opera over there. You won't even know whether to laugh or cry. Honestly, how are you even supposed to take all this in? Everything I've just described, but there it'll be, well, I was going to say on a demographic scale, but no, on a much larger scale. Here, from the 1st to the 5th of July, it's more likely to be a minor provocation, some small fry, some little thing, like a splinter, something that just nags at you, some doubt about certain people. That's it. Of course, I've just told you all this about the black moon. That's all. Forget it. Just forget it. Erase it. Erase it along with the black moon. The main thing is not to overthink it. Trust your real instincts more, and don't take your sensuality, your intuition, your sexual energy lightly. And be 2 or 3 times more careful about who you're getting involved with. Who you're letting into your inner circle. The thing is, the black moon can play out in such a way that you let the wrong people in. It can make you carelessly allow yourself to do that. That's it. We'll wrap up here. For those with this ascendant, the black moon is most likely moving through the first house. Watch for when it passes through your first house. At this moment, your reputation may become shaky or be discredited, because the black moon is like a mark, like the black spot from the pirate cartoon. In other words, you get the feeling that the world around you identifies you as a black moon character. Black moon characters are like hackers, criminals, or people with questionable professions. And when the black moon passes over your ascendant, especially during these 2 or 3 weeks, you come to make a deal, and people are just outright suspicious of you. You're like, what's going on? What's wrong? The black moon on the ascendant in the first house will be noticeable to those around you. For you, it won't be visible or clear, but for those around you, there will be a sense that you're kind of black moonish, some shady character. It's unclear. Or if you're a woman, people will also get the feeling that there's something mysterious about you. So, The black moon gives the impression that you're playing some kind of double or triple shady game. And people will suspect that. In reality, you might actually be doing this, but half of us are conditionally good, and half are bad. And the point is, even if you're absolutely upright, super clean, doing everything above board, say you're a businessman with a wonderful family, but if the black moon is passing through your first house, or especially a planet in your first house, people around you will just lose the desire to work with you. It's just that somehow there's no trust. It's like the black mark among pirates. So be careful, and again, don't overthink it too much. It's just a temporary indication. It doesn't really depend on you. I mean, you can dispel all the black moon spells if you can openly and directly discuss the issue. What's bothering you? Is this what's bothering you? Look here. Bothering you? Look, simple, clear. And with that, the black moon disappears from the space. But be prepared that for Ascendant Scorpios, during the week when it passes through the Ascendant, you will most likely face some doubts from people around you about your personality. Alright, that's enough, otherwise this video will end up being 50 minutes long. Let's move on. The next event I'd like to talk about is from July 7th to 12th. Here we have a full moon. The chart for these dates looks like this. Here we have a full moon in the sign of Capricorn, and it's connected to the theme of serious people, serious business, serious responsibility, and very intense intellectual work. A full moon in Capricorn is the time to roll up your sleeves, dig in, and get something effective and productive done. Right around these dates, Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini. Where are you, Uranus? Here it is, Uranus. Here it is already at 0 degrees Gemini. And I talked a lot about this Uranus in the introduction. Now I probably won't talk about it anymore. There were 10 minutes of talk about Uranus at the beginning. So overall, what needs to be said is that at this moment, a new educational era begins. A new period starts when you really get technology, understand it, start building some new educational projects or get involved in educational projects yourself. The main thing is that throughout July, your ruling planet Mars is moving through the sign of intellect, of superintellect, through the sign of action. And you're basically an intellectual. Your brain is really working, like gears turning. Even if there's not much to turn, even if there's just one gear, it's spinning so hard that sometimes your brain just gets stuck. And there's this feeling that I want to learn something. I want to figure things out here. I want to dig into something over here. And this is a really good constructive planetary position for any intellectual activity. You can handle reports, paperwork, any kind of information because you just plow through it like a tank. I'm like a combined harvester, like a harvester operator. It grinds up everything out there on its own field, all those stalks. And there might be an abundance of information, just an endless field, but you're just powering through it all on your combine, mastering it, learning it. And at some point by the end of the month, you'll feel like your head is about to explode. I've learned so much. Sorry for these wild associations. Something's pulling me in. I'm getting carried away. So yeah, in short, it's a time for intellectual work, and it's actually quite productive. An interesting point is that Venus is still in Gemini here, which means there's an intellectual partner nearby. You can chat, talk endlessly, discuss all sorts of intellectual topics together. So love is closely tied to the theme of interesting intellectual conversations. So maybe you even fall in love with someone you enjoy chatting with. That's kind of how it sounds. For those with this on the ascendant, let me clarify. As you can see, the full moon is most likely in the third house. There's the number 3. And accordingly, negotiations, business talks, trips, again, work-related, some kind of business trips. Mars is very strongly activated in the 10th house, which means I have a career, I have success. We're achieving some impressive results there, digitizing everything, brainstorming everything. At the same time, Mars is moving towards a conjunction with the South Node. I already know this career. I figured out this life. We've already settled everything here. In other words, it feels like I already know this kind of success, like I've been around the block here. That's it. It's all clear to me. And yet, the 10th house, I'm at the top. Again, this is a director's position, a role where you personally handle administrative functions. So go for it. The timing for these things is really great. July 14th and 15th. What can I come up with to tell you about this? First of all, this is a time when Jupiter enters the sign of Cancer. And Jupiter is the planet of happiness, the planet of emotional, harmonious, warm, and cozy family space, where your soul just sings because everything is so beautiful, harmonious, satisfying, and content. At the same time, on the 14th and 15th, the moon is most likely passing through your 4th house if we're talking about ascendant Scorpios. And actually, for both ascendant and just sun sign Scorpios, there's this theme of my home, my family, my loved ones. I just can't help but love them. I want to do something. Let's go somewhere together, relax. Let's spend more time together, relax together more. And this whole theme of family happiness, just the joy of being with these close and beloved people. Nothing else is needed. A week ago, your mind was racing. Career, work, rushing around, solving things. Now take a break. Focus your attention on your loved ones. Really enjoy being with them. These are also good dates for art. They're also good dates for, by the way, medicine. If you need to visit doctors or anything like that. That's it. For those with an ascendant, let me clarify that Jupiter is very likely to be in the 8th house in the sign of Cancer. And in that case, it's about business in the food service industry, organizing some kind of banquets where I'm carrying a significant financial burden. Well, it's not really your own money, but rather organizing some major financial processes in the service sector or in the field of caring for people. So around these dates, you, as Scorpio ascendants, might find some responsibility placed on you for your family, your home, your loved ones. Maybe to help out with something, to do something, to sort out certain financial obligations, doing it with support and heart. And of course, the theme of the 4th house, to arrange your home with your family, with your loved ones, to create coziness there so that everyone feels good. Next, from the 17th to the 22nd. Here. This is like the peak moment for your brain. From how much knowledge I'll be gaining in my head this July. How much mental activity will be going on up there. This is probably the most intense stretch, when everything in your mind is buzzing. Your brain is just like an anthill. It's like even your hair is standing on end there. And in all of this, Venus is also involved, the planet associated with someone pleasant and charming, with whom you discuss a lot of intellectual tasks and questions. Maybe with a loved one, you're having these brain-busting, complex, but fascinating conversations. This is a great time for effective teamwork, again, in an intellectual group, and most likely, possibly in a male-dominated team. Here, during these dates, Mars is joining up with the node of the past. The situation feels as if I am fully immersing myself in my old environment, going back to my old city, returning to some of my former hangouts, to my student days, to my community of friends and acquaintances, to some old world of mine where there are a lot of intellectual challenges. Alternatively, Mars in Virgo can also symbolize a community of athletes, bodybuilders, people who work with the body. Actually, throughout July, Mars is moving through the sign of Virgo, and Virgo is sometimes about the body, about, how to put it, rhythm, not exactly rhythm, but movement, well, basically, movement and precision. If you play sports, if you work with your body in any way, then precision of movement, honing your skills, working on physical activity, like, I don't know, dancing, carpentry, craftsmanship, anywhere you need to do something physically, this can go just brilliantly all throughout July. So if you're planning to take part in any events where you need to work on these physical skills, precision of movement, precision. Well, I don't know, maybe you go to boxing, for example, or you attend some sports events where you need good reflexes and body awareness. You can really achieve a wow effect in July and August. So working with your body, rhythm, its movements, being active, that's going to be pure pleasure. And here, you'll really feel all of that at its peak. Your mind will be boiling, and your body will crave some kind of activity, some kind of movement. Honestly, it brings to mind Leo Tolstoy, who once expressed this idea. He was a Virgo, born at the end of August, if I'm not mistaken. And these are the words of a Virgo. Went out to the field, mowed for 5 hours, worked up a sweat, came back, and suddenly felt inspired to write a novel. So when there's physical exertion, it actually sparks mental activity. That's why combining intellectual and physical work is highly encouraged throughout July. This is really the main formula for getting results. And in fact, there's a lot of this going on during these dates. But the main thing here is that you find yourself in a world from the past, something long familiar to you. Mars is joining up with the node of the past, an old town, an old task, an old business, and a lot of productive work in all of that. There's also a little detail. From the 17th to the 22nd, your love interest, represented by Venus, might get caught in a loop between the node of the past and the node of the future, between the old city and the new one. They went to the airport, but didn't fly out, got stuck. So there's some situation where my beloved, my object of affection, what I love, it could even be a beloved dog, for example, just got lost at the airport. In other words, the object of your love just got misplaced somewhere by accident. Be careful, don't lose it. 4. Let me clarify that here. Mars in the 10th house plays a big role. Career, achievements, recognition. Venus is moving through the 8th house. The object of love is under crisis tension, caught in a loop of events that you need to pull them out of. Honestly, the object of love here could be like Pierre Richard from the movie The Unlucky. The new moon on July 24th takes place in the sign of Leo. Here it is, look right here. It's really domineering, authoritarian. Seriously, it's intense. It has a very strong inner core. If everything that was happening before had this intellectual component, lots of thinking, coming up with ideas here and there, technologies, gadgets, some adventures. Your brain is boiling from the abundance of ideas, but here, a force appears that has nothing to do with the mind. Here, a domineering, tough person just shows up and says, guys, you go there. Like, but we were just, no, you go there. Basically, silence. There. And so, there's this clear, direct, commanding impulse that all of us get around the 24th. At the same time, actually, this impulse was announced on June 27th. Just so you know. Yeah, but here, on July 24th, it'll really come through. Well, the only thing you can do is say, aye, aye, Captain. That's it. And, Scorpios are like, okay, no problem, no big deal. Let's handle it. Respond to this directive impulse. But it's important to understand that here, in this directive impulse, on July 24th to 25th, the programs of Saturn and Neptune in Aries are being set. These are programs that symbolize Aries like aggressive, somewhat authoritarian, somewhat bold, daring, and forceful energy, which will unfold over the next 3, 5, or even 10 years, not as consequences, but as ongoing development. So the impulse that is set here is actually the beginning of a long, significant journey. And at the same time, it's not really connected to intellect or reason. It's just something that needs to be done. A and I, no matter how. I'm not sure it's absolutely necessary to go there. That's it. When you receive this impulse, you can actually bypass it, this impulse. There will be a number of factors and circumstances, so you can take different paths. You might not catch this impulse, you could just pass it by. Again, that's why I made probability indexes, so you can see whether the new moon or full moon, or something else, will affect you specifically. How closely is it personally connected to your date of birth? Even if it is connected to your personal date of birth, at 5 stars, you always have a choice. Honestly, my approach to all these transits and forecasts is that all of this is just knocking at your door. Whether you open the door or not, whether you engage or not, that's all up to you. Here, you can act as a conscious person who makes their own decisions about what will and won't happen in their life. And as for fatalistic forecasts, honestly, I get that sometimes they do happen, but 80% of predictions, even those based on your personal date of birth, are just potential situations for you. You can respond to them, get involved, but at the same time, you can simply let them pass you by. So, any forecast, even one based on your personal date of birth, is just a premise for how events might unfold. It's just that things are more likely to work out well if they're present in your forecast. But you can also just pass them by. So, this event is tough, authoritarian, and it can draw you into a strong, serious program. But think about whether you actually need that or not. But the power here is incredible, and being part of this great force is just awesome, if you decide to move in that direction. And it's a constructive, powerful, and effective force. So it's not some kind of nonsense. For the ascendant, let me clarify that the new moon will most likely relate to the 9th house. This could mean moving abroad, also in such a directive way. It could be higher education, but in a Leo-like way. So, it's something like Dubai, or maybe, what are some other Leo-type countries? Maybe somewhere like Italy. So, places where there's dignity, nobility, wealth, that kind of higher education might come up here, even if only indirectly. Also, Saturn and Neptune can play a big role here, since they're connected to real estate, moving, and in particular, the topic of property abroad is probably one of the main links between the 9th and 4th houses, Saturn, Uranus, and the Sun. Those are my thoughts. And that's probably it. Again, calculated based on your own birth date. You can calculate all of this for free below. Which of the events mentioned are likely to resonate with you, and which might just pass you by. Again, there's also a private channel with all sorts of tools. There are also forecasts based on love charts. For some people, that's actually a more effective topic than astrology. There's also early access there. For example, this video was published in the private channel back on June 15th. But in the public domain, it will appear much later. We also have a chat with artificial intelligence there, and there are courses included in this private chat group. In short, there's a lot of useful stuff. I hope you'll find something for yourself. That's all. Thank you for your attention, dear Scorpios. No Pazarin. This month will give us all a hard time, and the next 3 months, it seems to me, will change your life very much, because Uranus has thrown everything out of Taurus, and then a different life begins. Bye. This was Pavel Chudinov with you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't get lost.